I had been living alone in that cabin for 3 years when she first appeared. The war had ended, but the scars remained everywhere you looked. Cities lay in ruins beneath forest fields that flickered like dying stars. Most people lived in the underground colonies now where artificial suns never set, and you could forget what real snow felt like. But I remembered. That is why I came here to the old forest where the pine trees still stood tall, and winters came the way they used to before the world changed. My daughter would have been 26 now. She loved the snow. After we lost her in the final bombing of Seattle, I could not stay in those sterile tunnels any more surrounded by screens and recycled air. So I built this cabin with my own hands far from the settlements, where hover transports never came and the sky belonged to birds instead of drones. It was the coldest January in decades when I heard the footsteps outside. I was 72 years old, and my instincts were still sharp from my years in the Colonial Defense Corps. I reached for the pulse rifle mounted above the fireplace, but hesitated when I heard the sound wood being stacked. Through the frosted window, I saw her. She could not have been more than 12 or 13. Blonde hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and fox ears twitched nervously atop her head. A bushy tail swept the snow behind her as she carefully arranged split logs beside my door. She wore a red flannel shirt too thin for this weather and moved with the careful precision of someone who had learned to be useful to survive. A werewolf child. I had heard rumors that some of the genetic experiments from the war had escaped into the wilderness. The military had tried to create enhanced soldiers by splicing human DNA with animal traits. Most of the subjects died. The ones who survived were considered property of the state. I opened the door slowly so I would not startle her. She froze with an axe in her small hands, and those bright green eyes went wide with fear. "Do not run," I said quietly. "You are safe here." She did not move except for the slight trembling that ran through her thin frame. "You brought me firewood," I continued. "Thank you. That was very kind." Her ears rotated toward my voice, but her body remained tense like a deer ready to bolt. "Are you hungry?" The question made her ears droop, and I had my answer. "Come inside," I said, stepping back. "Please. It is too cold out here." She hesitated for a long moment. Then her stomach growled, loud enough for both of us to hear. Slowly, carefully, she climbed the steps. "My name is Thomas," the first told her as she entered. "What should I call you?" She looked around the cabin, taking in the simple furniture, the crackling fireplace, the photographs on the mantle of a life that used to be. "Luna," she whispered. "They called me Luna at the facility." I made her soup from the dried vegetables and preserved meat I had stored. She sat at my small table, holding the bowl with both hands as if it might disappear. She ate slowly, savoring every bite with gratitude that broke something inside my chest. "How long have you been out here?" I asked. She paused, counting on her fingers. "Maybe 2 months. The facility was attacked by raiders. Some of us escaped into forest. I did not know where the others went. 2 months alone in this wilderness. She should have died a dozen times over. How did you find me?" "Your smoke I come by sometimes to watch. You seem kind. Lonely. Like you might not turn me away." She was right on all counts. Luna stayed that night curled up by the fireplace, wrapped in blankets that probably smelled like dust and old memories. I sat in my chair, watching her sleep, and thinking about my daughter, about all the children this war had stolen and broken. In the morning, she tried to leave. "You do not have to go," I said. "I do not want to be trouble. You brought me firewood, Luna. You earned your place here." Something shifted in her expression. Earned. That word meant something to her. Over the following weeks, we fell into a rhythm. She would chop wood and I would cook. She would tell me about life in the facility, about the other children who had been turned into weapons, and I would tell her about the world before the war, when people still believe in things like kindness and second chances. She was brilliant in the way that only children who have had to survive too young can be. She learned to repair my solar panels and reprogram my water purifier. She asked questions about everything with a hunger for knowledge that reminded me why we fought that war in the first place. One evening, as we sat by the fire, she asked me the question I had been expecting. Why did you help me, Thomas? Everyone else would have turned me away. Or worse, I was quiet for a long time watching the flames dance. I had a daughter, once I finally said. Her name was Sarah. She loved science fiction stories and hot chocolate and making snow angels. She wanted to be a doctor. The bombs fell on her school during the last offensive. She was 16. Luna's ears flattened against her head. I am sorry, she whispered. After she died, I asked myself what the point of surviving was. I came here to hide from that question. But then you showed up with an armload of firewood trying to earn the right to exist. And I realized something, Luna. What? You should not have to earn that right. None of you should have. You are a child. You deserve safety and warmth and someone who sees you as more than a weapon or a mistake. Maybe I could not save Sarah, but I could do this one thing. I could give you what she never got to have. Tears rolled down Luna's face, leaving tracks through the dirt she had missed washing. Can I stay? She asked in a voice so small it was almost lost in the crackling of the fire. For as long as you want, I told her. This is your home now. She crossed the space between us and hugged me with a fierceness that reminded me what it felt like to matter to someone. Her tail wrapped around my arm, and I felt the walls I had built around my heart finally begin to crack. Spring came eventually, as it always does. Luna grew stronger and brighter. She laughed more. She learned to trust. And I learned that grief does not have to be the end of your story. Sometimes, if you are very lucky, it can become the beginning of something new. We built a garden together that year. We fixed the cabin's roof and added solar panels. We made plans. The world beyond the forest was still broken, but here in this small corner of it, two survivors had found each other. A grieving father who needed someone to protect. A lonely child who needed someone to see her as human. And on clear nights, we would sit by the fire, and she would ask me to tell her stories about the old world. I would talk about cities with lights that touched the clouds and music that made you want to dance, and people who believed tomorrow could be better than today. Maybe it can be again, she said one night. Maybe I agreed, if we are brave enough to try.